Okay, we'll call the committee of the whole meeting for Monday, January 12th to order at 1 p.m. Jody?
Please note, committee of the whole meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with section 20 sub 2 of the Access to Information and section 4 sub 3, attendees acknowledge that in Privacy Act with section 20 sub 2 of the Access to Information and section 4 sub 3, attendees acknowledge that in Privacy Act with section 20 sub 2 of the Access to Information and section 4 sub 3, attendees acknowledge that in Privacy Act with section 20 sub 2 of the Access to Information and section 4 sub 3, attendees acknowledge
was at 6th Avenue and 1st Street, southeast. So some of the unaccounted water sources are still similar, right? Hydrant flushing, mainline flushing, aging water infrastructure, which led to the replacement of all the spigots at the community gardens. Those old spigots were leaking a lot by the community garden standards. So we replaced all of the community garden spigots, and then there was issues with, we also still have issues with Poly B in the Northwest. So the Northwest is where we spend a lot of time doing service line checks. And then this is an example, I think it's on the slide, of copper replacement, so little holes in the copper. So that's aging infrastructure. Town achievements to date. So in 2021, that was when we contracted Pure Technologies to do the work and repair of to find two major leaks that we repaired. That reduction is noted in the table of about 10% between 21 and 22. In 2024, there was 20 leaks. They spent a lot of time in the Northwest in 24. So they found 16 town-owned and 4 private service leaks that were repaired. And in 25, we doubled that to find 49, which means 37 town-owned and 12 private. Continuation of the mainline replacement program. So that means that Crescent Avenue main should be replaced, and I have a picture of that right there on the side. You can't really see the water spitting out there, but there's water coming straight out there. So that's where we fixed the initial, put a clamp over that until we can replace the entire pipe. But there's pitting all along that pipe, and that was the one that we uncovered that created that cavitating roadway, the dip in the roadway.
What material is that? Sorry, Nicole.
What kind of material is that?
It's the old cast iron, is that? Or?
No, that would be PVC, I believe.
Okay.
Is that PVC?
No, that's iron.
That's iron?
Crescent Ave is iron. I can't remember this cast reduction, but it's iron.
I was just
It
curious.
shows PVC on the maps, but it's not.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
No, it's okay.
Iron. I'm gonna make note of that. We will continue to do verification of external meter vaults every 2 years. So that means the 7th Street vault, the Cayley vault, Homestead has a vault. Any place that has a meter vault going into the mobile home park or leaving Town of High River will be calibrating and validating those to make sure they're accurate.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So the one vault on 7th was in an accident and was out of commission for a while. Would that have caused some issues in metering the water, of course?
There was, but it was only for 2 months.
I think it was only a
small.
couple days the vault was without power.
Oh, okay.
And my understanding is that while the readings weren't getting back, so billing was a bit off for a couple months, the meter was still tracking the water used
Oh, okay.
once power was restored. So there's a couple days where it had no power. Once the power was restored, it continued tracking the water. And then once it was brought online to the system, the billing was corrected. So there's only a couple days of missed water coming out of that.
Thank you.
And just to clarify too, that's where the clerical error was. So the 7th Street meter vault is where we sell, am I using this the right terms?
Meter.
It's where we meter the water that goes to the county, so to Cargill or Alderside. And so Cargill and Alderside also have a meter so that they can get charged by the county in order to pay for their water. And so we haven't done anything before 2022 yet because there wasn't a lot of time and that's a full audit. But before that, they were only capturing the meter sales at Cargill and Alderside and then missing entirely that water loss between the 7th Street meter vault and those 2 meters in the north. So that's where we were able to find that clerical error, and then 10%. So we are, because of the demo that we did, the successful demo that we did with Smart Ears in December, the administration is going to be procuring Smart Ear technology so that we can continue through our leak detection program. If we see things that, if we hear those noises, those decibels, then we can place those Smart Ears on valves and check that nighttime flow to see if there's any spikes. I wanted to show you a couple of pictures. So all of these pictures were from this year. So I'm sure everybody remembers in January last year there was the big ice that happened at Riley Street, right by where Quilbert lives in the summer. And a resident called this one, and this was in a back alley, so all of a sudden there was just a lot of water, and when they went in there, that was a service leak, so they fixed that. So sometimes that's what service leaks can look like. This was a town line service repair at High Country Drive that we completed. And this is the one at 6th Avenue and 1st Street, the main line. There was a separation where the PVC pulled apart. And so it was about 100 cubes a day, they estimate, that was lost. So after that, after I saw how much water that didn't do, like before we found the clerical error, it was like 36,000 cubes is a lot of water in a year, like in just 1 year. But it didn't touch really that overall unaccounted, and then you start digging into data and looking for information, and then between Riley and I, we were able to find where the clerical errors were. So with that, in summary, we can say now that in 2024 we had 30% unaccounted instead of the first reported 42, based on the clerical errors that we found. So we're going to continue listening on curb stops, zone isolation, meter audits and replacements. We're going to be doing more leak detection investigations. We have to do more on mainline, so the Smart Ears will help with that. And there is still a significant amount of iron pipe. We do have an anomalous account follow-up with our finance team, so when the utility meter reads come in, they do a plus minus 50 cube change month over month in order to, like, if they stand out, and then the utility techs will go in and do a full investigation. And there's full notes in the meter books of each time they go in and if a meter was replaced, so that there's no lost information. There's always a carry forward of information there. And that is it. Does anybody have any questions?
Tons of questions. Michael?
And that data page from 2008 to 2024, just at the very last line of 2024. So we were thinking it was 42, we adjusted that to 30, the math makes sense, I see that. But when we're talking about in-town unaccounted and overall unaccounted, overall, from the total amount of treated water that we produce, we're losing 12%. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So we're not talking about a 42 or even a 30% loss of all the water. We're talking a portion thereof. We're losing 30% of the in-town service. But the overall, which includes Cargill, which includes Foothills, which is treated water.
It would be greater than that, depending on how.
It would be greater than 12%? Greater than what?
If you're looking at purely the losses,
Yeah.
it would be greater than 12%.
Okay.
The reasoning being is what is a county loss to us is actually accounted.
So it's on their side, they pay for it.
Correct.
That's what Mike
Correct.
was saying, yeah, like for us, it's 12%.
For us, it is. From an overall system, it isn't.
Correct, but that's on the county end, that's how,
That is correct.
the county can lose all the money, all the water they want and pay for it.
Yes.
That's not in our control, right?
Yes.
We control to the boundaries.
Yep.
And that's,
You're right.
and that the overall,
So from our system, yes, it's 12%, 11 or 12, whatever it is, yeah, 12.
So, yeah, we can be clear, I'm not saying that water loss is acceptable. What I am saying is if we put a number out there of 42 or 30%, people automatically assume that of the entire water that we produce, we are losing 42, or now that we've corrected ourselves, 30% in this case, or the number is significantly different than that. So we still have water loss, that's still a problem, we still want to fix it.
Yes.
But, again, in the numbers that we put to the public or that we're receiving ourselves, I'm glad to see this because it clarifies it for me.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about 42% water loss, my hair's on fire. Like, that just, to me, that's a massive, massive problem. If we go back and call it 12%, okay, that doesn't mean that I'm not gonna be concerned about water loss, and we need to mitigate it, we still have to work at it, but it's two entirely different perspectives that makes sense. And kind of what we've been talking and how we've been communicating on it, so. Nothing really wrong there, I just wanted to talk it through so that I had the right understanding.
Jamie?
I think it was on the last, because last slide, I can't find it in my R package here.
I didn't have it ready in time, sorry.
Okay, so you got iron and steel, PVC, what's AC?
Asbestos concrete, yes.
What is it?
Asbestos concrete.
Okay. Okay, then my question is,
Lachlan Meadows.
my question is what do we have dates roughly on like areas, like when pipe have been placed or installed or anything like that? Like, do we keep track of that? Not that I'm asking you to bring that forward, but the reason why is I'm just thinking about what's happening in the city right now.
The new stuff we do, the old stuff, it's not great.
Gotcha.
When you go into our asset management system, a lot of it has defaulted to a really old date that's not real,
Yeah.
1912 or, I can't remember what. 1898, thank you, Chris. A lot of, and it's not that old. That's just the default number that got plugged in. We can guess on some of it we can pull out original as-built, but no, we don't have dates on everything.
Gotcha. Okay. That was it.
Well, and you can create dates based upon vintage of the pipe too, right? So there are certain, AC pipe kind of came in play in the early 60s through the mid 70s, and then PVC started rolling in at that point in time. And so you can take a look at those vintages and kind of guesstimate.
Yeah.
Certainly before I think it was 1920, most of it wood stayed, right? So that was the wood stayed pipe that you see in a lot of places, and so.
Or even looking at like subdivision plan registration dates and things like that, you can get close. And that's what we're going to have to do.
What it is.
Not there yet.
Yeah.
Jamie?
On here you have a software audit which includes the, like to ensure household meters are calibrated properly. Have you guys thought about a time frame for doing that?
Not yet.
Okay.
That'd be something we'd want to propose to council when we're ready, but we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
Kathy?
Just to about, just more for clarification and my understanding, temporary water permits, would those typically not be billable?
So they are billable, like if they're coming off a hydrant, they are billable.
Yeah.
They're not always making it into the system, or they're not being metered if they are not actually permitted. In that case, we're into water theft, but yes, they are billable, but it's a manual process outside of the Tamara system. Tamara?
Temetra.
Temetra, thank you. So it's not always being tracked properly.
Okay, I guess maybe my confusion was not understanding what all permitted water was. I was thinking I've laid my sod, so I've put in an application to use more water than
And there's
glass.
and that's fine because it all goes through your house meter.
That's what I was thinking, yes.
And it's billed out. It's like when someone comes in, like a developer comes in and says, I need water for my Hall Road. And we give them a hydrant permit, they pull off a hydrant. It's metered, it's billed, but is it making it back into our billing system? Because it's outside of that system, it doesn't always make it in. And so what processes do we need internally to make sure it's being tracked properly?
Thanks, Ron, appreciate that. Just the other question, just about, there was a note about the poly B pipe in the northwest and residential fixes. So is that what we're seeing, some of those, the 12
Yes.
private, is that what we're seeing there?
Yes, they started in 2024 in the Northwest, and I think they did 80 leak detections, and of the 80, they found 20. And those were all service lines that were, I can't speak to the town-owned, but I know that private was poly B. But there is a lot of poly B in between the main line and, because how does the main line work getting to the,
It's typically copper.
it's typically
So the poly B is typically on the private side, there's
Yeah.
not a lot on the municipal side. It's different contractors installing it. And so when the developer came in and put the main in, they are typically running copper from the main to the curb stop. And when the builder came in, for that very specific vintage, they are running poly B from the curb stop to the house, which is the blue pipe that got circulated. And that's what we're seeing a lot of problems with on these services.
So how does it work when it's on private and there's a leak?
we have a leak detection letter that we give to the homeowners to make them aware that there is a leak on their side. And then it's up to them to manage that from there, so getting in a plumber and contractor to fix their leak.
Perfect, thank you.
So, can you clarify for me, you talked about water use that has to be billed manually, and it's not being routinely done?
Correct. I think we've almost eliminated hydrant permits at this point though, so it's
Yes.
almost,
They'd
it's a
be
pretty
pretty
minimal
small.
issue.
So, what's holding up just cleaning all that up?
Just setting a process, it's just reminding where do we track that number? So it gets billed out, but when you add up our total numbers in terms of plant production, it's not getting added in. So we just have to make sure that when we're doing our year-end summaries, we add it in. So what does that look like? How are we tracking it and where does it show up on the system?
So it's getting billed, but it's not showing up. How do you post the revenue when it gets paid? If it gets billed and paid, what does that go against?
So billing bills it out.
Yeah,
So billing and water consumption are different systems.
yeah,
And so when they bill it out, it gets billed,
right.
but that quantity of used water doesn't get reflected in our total consumption when you look at our water plant year ends.
And your usage.
Correct.
So it goes into the revenue somewhere, but the usage just doesn't show up.
So our invoice system shows it,
Okay. Thank
but
you.
not necessarily our water plant
Yeah.
consumption.
Just checking.
Now, we issue, I don't know, 1 or 2 hydrant permits a year now.
Yeah, we try to get
When
away with that.
development picks up again, that may change. But yeah, something we need to nail down.
And something else too, could you go back to slide number, I think it's 3 or 4, one with the table. So the difference even, we're not using this much, but we have that backwash tank. And so because we're doing a lot of non-potable water for like watering flowers and trees in town, and then Leadcore used a lot of water when they were doing all of their locating with their hydrovacs. That's the difference between, that can make up some of the difference between here and here. We don't have a meter to say how much backwash water we reused before, but that is untreated water. So that's one of those positive wins that we do have for town, is that we've been using that now, it's 2 summers. So we use it to water all of our trees. We don't use any hydrant water. Street sweeping goes there, our hydrovac goes there. So we're using, that goes with the hydrant. We use a lot less hydrant water, whereas before we might have saved a little bit of time and just done it at one of our town hydrants, where we don't do that anymore.
Can you just explain to me what backwash water is?
There is, it's a tank that is outside of the water treatment tank, out of the plant, and there's, I don't know if you've been there lately, but it's that little tank right there. And so whenever you see the hydrovac there, that's the water that gets unused and filtered.
So it's the water, so
Thank you.
our filters that treat our water, the big canister filters, the water goes through a media, basically sand, charcoal kind of thing, to filter out larger impurities. We have to, I think it's weekly,
It's weekly.
backwash. So basically, we take water, we push it through the media backwards to get all those impurities into the water, which is then sent through a different pipe and goes into the backwash tank, which sits outside the water treatment plant. So there's a certain amount, they call it process loss. Whenever you have a treatment process, there's process loss in terms of water loss due to treatment. And so we send it to the backwash tank, which we have been using for watering and whatnot, and which is kind of to Vicky's question, how we reduce some of that hydrant water that may have been not properly tracked. So there is some of that. The intent was maybe one day when we're getting a little tighter on licensing, pushing that back through the plant and through the treatment process and into distribution after it's had a chance to settle and the larger impurities are in the tank, or we continue to use it for watering or tree watering, hydrovac stuff, things like that.
Thanks.
Any other questions from council? See none, hear none. Thanks, Nicole.
Could I ask a
Kim?
question?
Sure, Marie.
I'm just wondering, fixing Crescent Avenue, what is the percentage of loss, the water loss, do you think is going to become of that?
We don't know. That was in my presentation. We don't actually know how long that has been there or.
You don't have a percentage?
Or even for 26, we don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know how about the pipe. We know the pipe's bad, but I mean, until you pull it out of the ground and look at it, you don't know. And even, it is actually really hard to track. You fix something. What happens is you can sometimes in your nighttime flows see the reduction in water usage due to tightening up the system. But the problem is, now that you fix that pipe, it increases pressure slightly downstream. And then the water finds a new way out if it's still more iron or degraded pipe. So it's really hard to quantify things like that.
So are you planning in 26 to do any scoping, so we don't have a disaster like in Calgary?
Okay,
if you-
Maureen, we will not have a disaster like in Calgary because we do not have a 7-foot water main coming into the town of High River. Our biggest water main is 12 inches.
Well, I'm just
So
asking,
we're not
is
gonna
there
end
any
up with something
scoping
like that. Let's
going
not bring
to happen?
Calgary's nightmare into play with this. You're kind of a long ways off.
Well, I'm just wondering, is there any scoping in the near future on the?
It's already done.
Yep.
We've already done.
All of them?
So there are very few areas in town dependent on, and I'm not talking like a cul-de-sac, I'm talking like sections of town, that is dependent on a single water line feed. Typically, they are around the water plant, and that was Kaylee's the Powerball testing, smart ball. So where we had these high risk lines or critical lines, we ran Powerball through to look for leaks, and that was what resulted in the Center Street and First getting dug up was the Powerball. We do have some other pipes that are on the horizon to get checked, but that's probably a year or two out at this point before we've scoped it and are ready, particularly the lines under the bridge or under the river. We have parallel lines, again, redundancy, but they do need to be checked at some point. But the other ones, like coming directly out of the plant, we ran the Powerball through them. We checked quite a bit of pipe, actually.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Council procedure by Jody.
Alright, so in your council package, you would have received, sorry, trying to get to the right place in the agenda as well as present. So the council procedure bylaw was adopted back in 2021. Since then, obviously, we've had a change or two of our council members. So it seemed time to review the council procedure bylaw and give current council the opportunity to review and provide their feedback for how meetings are to be run, how items get on the agenda, how public can be heard, and all of those details for all of council meetings, including this committee of the whole meeting, our regular council meetings, special meetings, public hearings, closed meetings, the whole gamut, including the council swearing in and inaugural meeting. There were quite a few changes, and we did also change the order of the bylaws, so we did not attach a track change version to the report here because it was just a red line mess, but I can highlight what changes we did focus on. So we removed the title page. In the council agenda package, you'll see that the 2021 adopted bylaw did have a title page, almost to make it look more like it was a book. We didn't see any need for that. It's a bylaw, so we took it back to just have the same template as our other bylaws. Again, changed the order to make it flow better. We changed the FOIP, or Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy references, to the new Protection of Privacy and Access to Information Act, which together we call ATIP. We did remove the Code of Conduct because, of course, last year, was it last year or was it 2020?
Last year.
They removed the Code of Conduct, and that was automatically repealed from all bylaws that municipalities have passed. So we wanted to clean that up from our bylaw. We clarified the delegation section as to timing and how members of the public can put forward that request for delegation, as well as trying to clean up the public comment section, because it seemed that we were getting a number of inquiries where it seemed clear that that section just wasn't detailed properly so that residents could understand how they could get their public comments to come forward. We did add a section, or just a note in there saying that recordings of the live stream of meetings would only be on YouTube for 1 year. We refined the swearing in and the inaugural meeting descriptions. There was a little bit too much information in the swearing in portion, which really didn't need to be in the council procedure bylaw. It gives us a little bit more flexibility how that swearing in ceremony can take place. And we added a note in there that written submissions from members of the public or residents may appear as part of the minutes, with a note in there that says, depending on how council has considered it, to make a decision. So if a submission is received, and rather than it automatically showing up on the minutes, if it was something that maybe council disregarded or didn't play a factor in a decision, that way it wouldn't be included in the minutes because it didn't have any bearing on the decision. So giving that ability to either say yay or nay to whether a public submission appears in the official council minutes. And there is still a portion in the council procedure bylaw that discusses a question period, which is where the public comments is regarding anything that's on the agenda. The question period is more open. So it is still in the draft council procedure bylaw, but did want to point that out so that council can make the decision how the public interacts with council. So wanted to give you that highlight and overview of what changes are being proposed, but also wanted to put that official request out there for members of council to provide us your feedback. And if we don't have this captured right and how you want it to be detailed, please let us know. We'll take either comments or I understand that there may be some notes and lists of stuff that should be included or updated in here. We're happy to take that in any form.
Sounds good. Any questions?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I just don't see a definition for, I was just trying to look at the difference between public comment and question period, and I don't see a definition for question period, so I know you can just refresh.
Yeah, here, let me just find the question period section. Getting close.
Are you talking in the definition portion up top?
Yeah, that's, I was looking at the
Yeah.
definition, I was just trying to compare the two.
It's not, that's a good catch because it's not in the definitions, but if it's something, I was just gonna pull up that section of the, oh, maybe it did come up.
No, right there.
Oh, it's right there, question and answer period. I just wanted to pull up the section within the bylaw so that if we do need to come up with a definition that is added at the beginning of the bylaw, we can do that. And this is more specific to committee of the whole than it is for the upstairs council meeting, which I think again is where there was some confusion for members of the public that wanted to come and speak to any topic where 161.
Oh, you did?
Oh, but all of the numbering, there was a lot of changes.
Yeah, so 161 was a number issue.
Yeah, because,
Okay.
161 should read 157 and 158.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're off by one number there. And again, lots of order changes, so instead of 156, 157, it's 157,
58.
158.
Yeah.
Okay. That's an easy change. Do you have anything harder? Or any like content pieces that we should be focusing on for council to have meetings that are managed how you would like?
I have a question about one of them, not necessarily a change.
Sure.
So number 70 talks about the procedural fairness. No person shall address council regarding a matter that has been the subject of a public hearing following the conclusion of the public hearing. Is that just in the meeting or is that at any point after the public hearing?
So that is at any point after the public hearing. Public hearings do have some very strict restrictions on how those items can be managed. They shouldn't be spoken officially to outside of the public hearing itself.
So if somebody has an issue, they bring it to the public hearing.
Yeah, so the issue with the public hearing aspect is once the public hearing's closed, then that's all public input that you can gather from that point in time. So if a resident comes back and says, hey, have you thought about this? That conversation could be opened up as a challenge to the process and the procedural fairness for the applicant. And so the public hearing is there to gather all the public input, and everything that's collected that day is to be part of the record, and any further engagement with the public has to cease until a decision's been rendered.
Okay.
So, you know, that's a tricky part because, you know, side conversations at the coffee shop, you know, somebody says, well, what do you think, right? And you've got to be very in tune to say, I can't, right? I've got to go into this process with an open mind based upon the information that's been collected to date, and once the decision's been made, I can come back and talk to you.
Perfect, because I guess I didn't realize that until I read that, so.
Anything else? And if there isn't right now, you can send us something after, or anytime. We'll just continue to collect and refine until we have it right, and you can bring it back to council.
What's the timing of the public comments and the question and answer? Because the public comments relate to agenda items, is that right? So that would come early on in the meeting?
They are still slotted to be at the end of the meeting.
That seems to me to be a little counterproductive. We've already made a decision and we let them talk to us about it. That doesn't sound awfully useful. I think they're be more purposeful if they were at the beginning so that we would then be able to consider those comments as we go through agenda items. And then the question and answer is just whatever they are wanting to bring up, whether it's on the agenda or not. And I don't see a problem with that being towards the meeting. But I guess I have a problem with public comments on agenda items coming after we've made the decision.
Okay.
I think question and answer though was different.
And that's just for committee of the whole.
Yeah, question and answer is just for
Yeah.
committee of the whole here,
Okay.
where public, yeah, right?
The public comments piece, Vicky, Like when I first started, whatever, 12 years ago, there was, I don't even know if there was public comments at that time. Anyway, back then we had public comments at the end. And then we recognized the exact same thing that you're speaking of right now, is that it doesn't really make sense if we have a comment on something we're gonna be discussing or voting on, and someone should be able to have a couple of minutes that you can give your 2 cents on it. So we did that. And I can't remember how long that went on. And then it got derailed. And we all in this room know exactly what I'm talking about. And it started happening again and again and again, and it wasn't sticking to the agenda items, and our meetings were getting derailed. So that's why we stopped. We took that portion out of it. Now I am 100% on board and totally okay with putting it back in, but we have to be very, very disciplined that it is only agenda items, and not just some random grandstanding that's gonna go on and derailing the business that we have to do in our council meetings for this community. That's the only way that I will support it is that, and that's primarily, well, it's me and it's every council member, that if it starts to veer off of an agenda item, or even starts, that we need to just stop that. And if you want to speak to an agenda item, wonderful. Give your, whatever, do we have a time in there? You got 5 minutes or something, right?
And then discretionary no longer if the chair
If
chooses.
it were to veer off, would any one of us be able to say point of order?
100%.
And then direct them
Shut her
to,
down.
to carry on and question and answer later if they wish, but restrict themselves to the agenda item.
Yeah, like there's delegation, ways of doing it, as we all know. You can send us emails, like it's easy to get a hold of any of us if you want to get your message across to council. You can't get it done in the 5 minutes, or if it's outside of an agenda item. We all get emailed all the time from the public regarding various things that are not always in that week's agenda. So that's completely fair, but if we are going to do that at the start of the meeting, then we have to be very disciplined so that we can get the business that we have to do that day done.
And that I don't have a problem with, but I couldn't support a procedure bylaw that didn't allow people to speak to agenda items before we make a decision.
It's an option council has to allow it, so.
Yeah, and we didn't move it earlier into the agenda format, like that layout that we use, because council does hear from residents through a number of different means. There is also the legislative services at highriver.ca email that we receive correspondence or items that then are included in the agenda. So I'm happy to move it earlier in the agenda, or like in the template that we have of the agenda, so that it can show up. I don't know if you want it to show up before or after delegations, or
But this bylaw doesn't delegate, or doesn't say exactly how our agenda lays out. We can lay that out however we want, right?
no, it's more for,
So it's not-
we could make it specific in the council procedure bylaw. It would be more for our purposes as to where you would want that to show up.
I'd also be supportive of putting a limit on it as well, because you cannot have your public comment section turned into a public hearing.
60 people.
And 60 people going for 5 minutes for, it's not a public hearing.
Right.
No, but if 60 people have an issue on something we're about to consider, maybe we should know.
Well, like I said, Vicki, it's not just that time that's the only time they have to get their opinion in front of council. Like, this is where there needs to be boundaries put on this, because we still have business to take care of. And
They're not only putting it in front of council though, because it's live streamed, they're putting it in front of the community as well, as a public comment. Some of them might be doing it on behalf of the community, we don't know.
But, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if there's that much interest in it, then I think the pause needs to occur, and they need to recommend a public hearing on the topic.
Well, that would be nice.
Does that,
There's
can
only
it, no,
certain-
I don't know.
There's only certain
Yeah.
things that actually result
There-
in public hearings, but
Yeah, there's two types of public hearings. You have your statutory public hearings where we have to hold a public hearing, and then council does have the ability to set a public hearing as well.
for anything, is that right?
Yeah.
See, I guess what I want to say was, I agree with what Vicky is saying to a certain degree. Because I was sitting here thinking about, then you started to talk about it. You can get a group of residents that are passionate about a topic that can load up a meeting. And it can be 60 people that have the same opinion and all 60 want to talk, and it kind of corrals the meeting then. So I agree with Mayor Snodgrass, and there needs to be something of a parameter. You don't want to, pardon the expression, but gag any of your residents. We want them to have that open dialogue, but there needs to be some construct to it too, so that the meeting can't be sabotaged, which some people would use that opportunity to do that. So you had your public hearing section, like we just talked about, where it could go, that kind of dialogue could be put forward there. So we need to frame it in the right way. I agree with you, like, people need the opportunity to speak, but there also needs to be a construct of how that speaking happens, at what point and in what manners.
And you've also got, like, if there is a big group that's all on the same page, with the same issue, it's called a delegation. And they can get together, look at the neighborhood rescue group that formed themselves over the apartment building, right? They took all those, and it's not just 60, there's probably a couple hundred that are involved in that, right? And they've organized themselves, and they came to us with the delegation, and they presented the whole thing, and their asks and everything else was very, very well done. It's where you start to get repetitive in these things, and you end up spending 2 hours on hearing the exact same message just because you want to give everybody, like,
Yeah.
Perhaps if
you've
we
got
put-
a group that's all together, get a group together and tell them
one
to do it.
voice.
Perhaps if we put some parameters around it, like anything with, any topic that's gonna take more than 20 minutes, say, or 15, whatever you wanna put on it, would be referred to a public hearing. If it's that important to that many people.
Correct, or you could refer them to form a delegation. Rather than a public hearing, I would say return and form as a delegation. And then council has the opportunity to even postpone the motion based on that. Okay, we're gonna postpone this motion, we're not gonna deal with it today. Come as a delegation so that we can hear you, give you the proper time to be able to do that, and you guys can formulate your thoughts and make it clear and concise for everybody. I'm 100%.
And that makes sense, because a delegation, correct me if I'm wrong, but a delegation, we could just, we don't have to post it like a public hearing, right? A public hearing, we
It's
would
just
have
part
to
of the
post.
agenda.
Okay, yeah, okay.
The,
Doesn't have to be all that
the
formulated.
The neighborhood rescue group, they did a wonderful presentation, I agree, some excellent material. But there was no limit on the number of contributors to that. I mean, there was a plethora of letters that we received and
Yeah.
read through.
Yeah.
So, any delegation would have that same opportunity, because if you've got 60 people who want to be heard,
So there's a time limit on that.
they may, well, I know, but they may want to put 60 letters in, or they
Oh,
may
for
want
sure,
to.
the written material,
Yeah.
knock your socks off.
5, I mean, so we're not gonna limit that, I mean, 5 people might sign 1 letter, who knows? But
Correct.
I just don't wanna see them preempted from having a public presentation. And are their letters then made part of the agenda as on the,
If they're a delegation, they absolutely are. If they're sent to, as correspondence into the agenda, yeah.
so they're available, I mean, to people who are looking online at our agenda, is the correspondence from the,
If we've received them prior to the meeting and
Yeah.
like services can add them to the agenda, then absolutely. it's
then they're
public
able to
documents.
be read by the general public?
Yeah, if we receive correspondence addressed to mayor and council by the agenda deadline, then it will typically appear on the council correspondence either for information or for action at the end of the agenda. There are some items of correspondence that are received but then end up being an administrative issue that is dealt with right away. And those ones typically are not going to show up on the agenda because they're an operational or an administrative issue that has already been managed. So, but if it's,
My question is, can the delegation their material is often
Oh, yes.
on the agenda, can they include?
If it's
Their
submitted
support.
beforehand, absolutely.
I'm sorry?
Yes. If their delegation presentation
Yes.
has been submitted beforehand, Judy, then that's all there.
Yep,
100%.
anything they submit in advance, we will attach to their section on the agenda.
And even if it's after, it's still gonna be reflected in the meeting minutes of that meeting, correct?
This is the
No.
note that we just added to this new council procedure bylaw. So yes, if there was a delegation and they submitted something the day that they're actually speaking in addition to what they provided in advance,
With this,
then we have that option to add it to the agenda or not, based on if it is gonna support a council decision. We
Perfect.
would add it. However, if it was like irrelevant or not considered, then we do have the option to not attach it, but.
good.
If it
Yes.
comes late and it's not considered, how do we determine that? Like, if it comes late, it's not in our package,
It would be in the next minutes.
and so then if it hasn't been considered because it came in late, you're saying you have the option to not include it in the next package.
Yes, so if, let's say I appear as a delegation, I've submitted a bunch of information in advance, that's on the agenda, but the day of I show up maybe with like, if it's a list of the people who were supporting it and maybe had their names, contact information, addresses and that, we may decide not to include that, one for a privacy concern.
Privacy.
Or if it didn't have an impact on actual council's decision or how they're gonna make a decision, it may not be attached to the minutes of the meeting.
Or if a decision was made. I'm throwing that out because the decision's been made, so the
If a
information
decision was
is
made.
irrelevant at
Yeah,
that point.
because sometimes during a delegation, council can provide a decision right away. Typically what happens with a delegation is it's referred to administration will then come back typically to the next meeting and provide additional information so that at that point, council can make a decision. So it really depends. We've tried to capture a variety of scenarios.
Can you condense this portion when we bring this back to approval of the council procedure bylaw?
Yeah, like adding these parts in here, you mean?
Just how the first section of the public comments.
Yeah, so I've made some notes just to confirm to add some construct. Again, right now it's a maximum of 5 minutes, but if we can add something to the effect of like no repeat comments, so we don't keep hearing the exact same thing from 60 people if that's the case. Only new perspective or comments, and that if they are a group, then they do have that option to submit a delegation request. So
Perfect.
we'll do our best to capture that
Word
with
that.
better wording in the procedure bylaw. when we
Wonderful.
get back.
Thanks, Vicki. Anything else? All good. Thanks very much, Julie. Variance, Montaigne.
Okay, good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Zara from Planning Department, and I'm here today to present a variance application for 117 Mountain Link, site is at New Montrose Space. The town's Planning and Development Department has received a minor development permit application for a single detached dwelling at 117 Mountain Link Southeast, as shown here in this map. Which is in the Montrose area, filed under development permit 1060.25. The applicant, Homes by Dream, is requesting a variance to the frontage build-out requirements in land use bylaw, which measures the lot line occupied by building facade as measured from the front setback. While the land use bylaw requires a minimum frontage build-out of 65%, the proposed development provides 63.1%. Could you please just open the site's plan map? Yeah, Thank you.
Wow, yeah.
Yes.
Just zoom out a little bit more.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Although the property is within the Montrose area where the blanket variance policy applies, this particular variance is not covered under that policy, as it only applies to parcels without rear lane that cannot meet the garage projection or vehicle access weight standards. The applicant has provided a design-based rationale, noting that increasing the frontage build-out to meet the full requirements would compromise the architectural proportions of the home, add unnecessary construction fee, and offer minimal functional benefit. Administration reviewed this variance request along with other development permits at Mountain Link, where frontage build-out ranged from 65 to 72%. As a similar variance at 118 Mountain Link, exactly at the other side of the street, was supported earlier with no public concerns. Given the very minor degree of non-compliance at 1.83% and the minimal visual impact on the streetscape, administration supports the request of variance. I bring it here to this meeting because it's not covered under the blanket variance policy, just to see if you have any questions or concern with this variance application. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Sarah, this is the exact same as what we just did.
Approved before, yes.
Yeah,
Couple
yeah,
months ago,
could you
right?
exactly, yeah.
Because it's the angle of the street is what's causing it.
Yes. Okay, so, yeah, in 25, we approved the same, exactly, the same variance application for the frontage build-outs for this property, 118, exactly at the other side of the street. And now this variance is for this property address, 117.
The lots change size. So how many meters or parts of meters is that?
Okay, if you can go back to the drawing, I can explain it.
So I can get an idea of.
Exactly, okay. So, based on the land use bylaw, how we calculate the frontage build-out is just to get a percentage of the property, the building frontage out of the building front setback. So, the difference is just half a meter to meet the 65% of the, yeah, it's very minor.
Any concerns from council? Michael?
Not a concern, just a question, clarification. In their letter, they talk about a 2.56% variance, and the numbers that I'm seeing from our side are a 1.83% variance. So I just want to make sure that's what we're talking about, the 1.83%. If we give them an approval, I'm sure it says what we're giving them, that they don't automatically go get their 2.56 that they asked for. I'm sorry, it's semantics, but it's a detail in my head, so.
Yeah, thank you for your great question. So, town actually explained many times to this developer how we calculate the frontage build-out and where we can just consider the frontage. However, the applicant usually consider the frontage build-out out of this distance, not out of this distance. So this is exactly where this difference gap comes. But technically, yeah, we definitely ask the applicant to revise the rational plan.
Just so we're talking about exactly the same thing.
The land use bylaw defines this as we calculate the frontage build-out to consider the frontage build-out based on the front setback, not from the front property line.
And the approval will be very clear in the notice of decision and the approved plans, that's our states.
Just one other question. I'm assuming that this variation or this construction isn't going to interfere with anyone else's use of their property or view or access to the road. It's not going to interfere with anyone else.
Sorry, what was your question?
Visually
doesn't.
down the street, you're not having this house sitting out here kind of thing.
You're not going to have other people impacted by this. It's just strictly.
Yes, no. We asked the applicants prior to, this variance application to just add more frontage build out to this property. However, because of reasons I just referred to based on the construction fee and the architectural pattern, so adding just half a meter doesn't technically work for them. So in this case, they just ask for this variance. From the pedestrian-oriented perspective and the streetscape perspective, I don't see any concern with this just minimal and that half a meter, less than 65% frontage build out. Yeah.
Thank you.
And actually, the property has enough side setbacks on both sides, so we make sure that no extra, negative to the neighbors will come.
That's-
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All good?
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Question and answer, council to administration. Anybody? Michael?
Not a question or an answer, but just a point of observation. On the 2A coming into town where you start to veer left towards the Circle K, so there used to be a 50-kilometer-an-hour sign. The post is still there, I believe, as of last night and the night before, but the sign isn't there anymore. So somebody borrowed the speed limit sign. And people like to drive pretty fast past the rodeo grounds and through past Circle K, so having the sign there, I think, is prudent. Okay. Maybe it just fell down and it's there on the ground, but.
Anything else? Nothing?
There's no weeds in there for me to talk about.
Meeting adjourned 2:03.
Let's just go back in the